This could significantly worsen your metabolism. You use them to cut calories and reduce sugar, and that's great. They're sweeteners. There are dozens of them, but one of the most commonly used is sucralose. You might recognize it. This has it too, and even this supplement I take from time to time, collagen, contains sucralose. But be careful, because in light of a new clinical trial, it might not be as harmless as it seems. After watching this video, you'll likely use fewer sweeteners and improve your health. I'm Dr. Borja Bandera, a physician specializing in endocrinology and nutrition. Today we're talking about how sucralose impacts your metabolism. What is sucralose? Sucralose is a widely used sweetener that is created by chlorinating sugar, which means replacing hydroxyl groups with chlorine atoms. It's a minor structural change, but its effects are significant. In fact, it makes it 600 times sweeter than sugar, has 0 calories, is not absorbed, and is very stable. A cocktail of features perfect for those who want to lose fat but still enjoy sweetness, or not. The first thing you need to know is what the acceptable daily intake of sucralose is. European Food Safety Authority's official answer is clear: 15 milligrams per kilogram of body weight per day, a very high limit. For a 70-kilogram man, that's just over 1 gram, specifically 1,050 milligrams. Is that a lot or a little? What do you think? In the United States, the Food and Drug Administration sets the acceptable limit at 5 milligrams per kilogram per day, which is a third of the European limit. Interestingly, does that mean sucralose is safe? Toxicologically, it's definitely safe. To exceed that dose, you'd need to drink around 20 cans of zero soda, 15 sweetened yogurts, or 100-200 pieces of gum daily. No, most of us never exceed that dose. Okay, but now let me explain. What does this new study show? Look, it's a triple-blind randomized clinical trial in which they evaluated the metabolic effect of sucralose in 39 lean and healthy individuals. This is key. They didn't have prediabetes, they didn't have diabetes. Healthy people. The active group received 3 capsules of 90 milligrams of sucralose daily, that is 270 milligrams for 30 days, and the control group during those 30 days received a placebo. As always, participants in both groups had blood tests before and after eating a standard 500-calorie meal. And what did they find? The conclusions were surprising. Warning: participants in the sucralose group had reduced alpha microbial diversity. What does that mean? Borja, explain it simply. Look. In the Amazon jungle, right, there are different types of trees, plants, animals, birds, insects, right? Together, they create a strong, interdependent ecosystem, right? Reducing alpha diversity is like cutting down the jungle and planting only pine trees, instead of having hundreds of bacteria with different roles. Digesting fiber, making vitamins, defending against pathogens, strengthening the gut barrier, and producing postbiotics. Few species dominate the area, so a forest of only pine trees is weak. That's how the microbiota works. What else did they find? A 123% increase in post-meal glucose, blood sugar went up more after eating, and the same happened in the sucralose group, also a 23% increase in insulin. The pancreas must respond to excess glucose to move it into cells. They also saw a 68% rise in glucagon, like 68 Borja. Do you think that's good? Maybe it could be. It's still a sign of greater glucose absorption in the intestine. I'll soon explain why the sucralose group absorbed more glucose despite eating the same thing. But they also found, and this is the strongest finding, a 3% lower insulin sensitivity. I'll repeat, the most shocking finding was a 20% increase in insulin resistance in healthy people, just from consuming sucralose. That's something to seriously think about. Afterwards, they had more side effects, like abdominal bloating and headaches. There was also an increase in curly fecal protein. What is that? I didn't know. What is curly fecal protein? Look, curly protein is an amyloid fiber that pathogenic bacteria secrete to create biofilms as protective layers. When your levels are high, it's indicative that you have hostile occupants entrenched in your digestive system, meaning you have bad bacteria. And finally, reduced fecal butyrate. Butyrate is the top fuel for colon cells. When there's enough, the intestinal mucosa regenerates better and the barrier stays stronger. In conclusion, insulin sensitivity dropped by 203% and the microbiota worsened in just 1 month. 30 days using sucralose amounts below the daily limit. That was the worst part of the video. Should you completely avoid sucralose? I'll answer, but first, what does the evidence show? In 2023, for example, the World Health Organization advised against sweeteners for metabolic goals like weight loss, citing study quality. There's still much room for improvement. But clinical trials have also made us question the use of sweeteners in obesity, seeing that even a single dose could worsen glycemic control in some of them, which in vitro studies indicate that sucralose activates digestive taste receptors, boosting glucose absorption. Yes, the intestine has taste receptors. The intestine tastes sugar, sending signals that increase its absorption. This would explain the metabolic changes seen in the study because, if you remember, both groups ate the same thing and one had higher glucose levels than the other. Sucralose isn't absorbed in the small intestine. It reaches the colon almost unchanged and interacts with your microbiota, which appears to be a negative interaction. You've seen it. Sucralose is calorie-free and doesn't trigger insulin directly, but it can still worsen glycemic control. Through other indirect methods, like I mentioned, insulin levels increase further. So, to wrap up, what would I do? Me? Should I throw my hands up in the air, throw away everything that has sucralose, never buy anything with sucralose again? No. And here's why. They were given a lot of sucralose. A packet of Splenda usually has about 12 milligrams of sucralose. With the European limits, we would have to go over 80 packets a day to exceed the acceptable and safe daily limit. That's not very likely. In this study, they took 270 milligrams of sucralose daily in capsules. Even an avid consumer of sweetened products would not exceed 200 to 250 milligrams per day. It's hard to do. You'd need to constantly eat sweetened foods, so I don't think this study reflects real-life situations. Most of you don't even reach 150 milligrams of sucralose per day, and it's expected that the effects are dose-dependent. Second, the study had only 20 participants and did not consider their exercise or nutrition habits. These habits can significantly change the metabolic response to sweeteners. I recommend the following. You know I'm not a big fan of sweeteners, except as a transitional tool for you. That's why I don't use sweetened protein, just the neutral flavor. I'd recommend the same if you're trying to lose fat, have obesity, or insulin resistance. Make an effort most days. Avoid sweeteners. If you do have them, keep it under 50 to 70 milligrams per day, which is already a lot. This means having a pre-workout or a sucralose protein shake occasionally isn't concerning. Maybe some sweetened yogurt or a bar, but not continuous consumption if you have zero-calorie drinks with every meal, sweetened yogurts and protein bars, and packets of sweetener in your coffee every day in large amounts. Well, I'm sorry to tell you that in the long run, you're creating a hostile environment in your gut, which isn't going to make your life any easier. I'm not saying that if you do this, it's impossible to lose fat, but it will make it harder, it will be a barrier. And remember, watch out, I'm watching you. Returning to sugar is the worst option. Please avoid it completely. That's all for today's video. If you want nutrition or training advice, leave your email here. Big hug. See you in the next video. Let's keep empowering.